Friends, good evening. My name is Steve Wellman. I'm with New Hope Church in Goldsboro, North Carolina. Over these past few weeks and months, I have had the opportunity to do some information sessions in a number of churches and share with them the process of disaffiliation and what it means to become GMC. And the question that continually arises in a lot of places that might be the most dominant question I'm hearing is, why should we become GMC and not simply remain independent? That's a fair question. There's many churches that feel as if they've had a negative experience in the United Methodist Church, and they're wondering why they want to affiliate with another denomination. What I want to offer for you this evening, briefly, are 10 things that I believe are an advantage to become GMC more than remaining independent. I want to go in reverse order, beginning with 10 and concluding with number 1. So let's jump right into it and look beginning at number 10. Let's begin with this question: are we running to something or are we running from something? That's a question that we've got to clarify. Because as a church that is disaffiliating, we've got to think about what our ultimate conclusion leads to. What is it leading to? I don't know if our highest energies and highest creativity are going to reach the momentum that they need to when we're merely running from something. No, our highest energies are going to reach fulfillment when we feel as if we're running to something that is meaningful, that counts for something. I can tell you that the GMC was not designed simply to be an escape from the United Methodist Church. That's not the reason it exists. It's not merely an escape from a denomination. It is a community that is designed with high ambitions to be a part of what is going to hopefully become a great awakening for the 21st century. This church is aiming to make an impact in our culture and around the world. So we're not merely running from something when we disaffiliate. We are running to something. We're running to opportunity. We're running to prospects that we believe the GMC Church represents in an enriching and abundant way. Number 9, I want to give you this image. No church is an island. No church is an island. It was Thomas Merton who wrote the book No Man is an Island, and in that book he showed that no one can reach their potential in isolation. No person can do that when they are separated from a wider community. Now, if that's true for individuals, it is especially true for Christian community. The GMC aims to ignite our attention toward the glorious embrace of a call that we all share to contribute to the grand scheme of ministry and mission in the wider world. I don't know if anyone can do that individually or as a church that is operating purely independently. Number 8, clarity in the midst of confusion. Clarity in the midst of confusion. It's no doubt that we live in a world that is swarming with confusion these days. Confusion about many things. Confusion about morality, confusion about identity, confused in every way, and what we need is a community that is sure about the doctrines it professes. It doesn't represent situational ethics. It doesn't promote contextual doctrines that will be true for one place but different for some other place. The GMC is going to promote doctrines that will be true in North Carolina, they will be true in Africa, they will be true in the Philippines. There will be a beautiful unity to the doctrines that the GMC represents. And to associate with a community like that should endow us with the confidence that we can live with a definitive light in a world that is certainly swarming with increasing shadows in every way. To be a part of a community that is sure about what it represents and confident about what it professes, that's no small matter. And when we associate with that, there is something about being emboldened by it. Number 7, what I want you to capture as the more excellent way. The more excellent way. John Wesley was fond of presenting what he referred to as holy love in God's character. And he believed that if you went to either extreme, that you missed significant attributes. If you only profess holiness without love, then you become rigid and dogmatic, cold. But if you profess love without holiness, you represent license and moral chaos. Wesley believed that God's character held holy love in a beautiful unity. And when we receive the inspiration of holy love, it is what Paul refers to as the more excellent way. Anybody in human nature can represent one or the other. We can try to represent dogma without love. We can try to represent love without being holy. But it takes someone supernaturally inspired to represent holy love. And for those that give witness to that, they are living according to the most excellent way. That is exactly what the GMC represents and what the GMC wants to inspire in all of the churches around the world, that we can give witness to what the most excellent way really means. Number 6, what we would refer to as expanding horizons. Expanding horizons. To represent ministry in your local community is important. But Wesley was very fond of saying, "The world is my parish." He wanted the people that represent Wesleyanism to have a wider vision, expanding horizons. For those who claim to be Wesleyan, but to think that they could represent a purely independent congregation, well, they're missing the nucleus of what Wesley was all about. Wesley believed that the gospel was for all nations. We were to go into all the world. And when we're called by the Great Commission to go into all the world, we can accomplish that better when we're a part of a community that is stretching all around the world, rather than attempting to do that from our own local community. To have expanding horizons is better accomplished when we're doing that through the Global Methodist Church. Number 5, what we would call elevating accountability. Elevating accountability. We're often criticized in the GMC because they will say as a UMC that we're not different from what the UMC discipline professes. Well, the GMC really doesn't have a problem with the UMC discipline. What we do have a problem with is that not everyone is following the UMC discipline. Bishops are rebelling against it. Entire conferences are rebelling against it. One thing the GMC decided to do was, when they formed their transitional discipline, was to create accountability measures where leaders will be responsible to the people they do ministry to. They will be responsible to one another. And not only will leaders be accountable to each other and to the people they do ministry to, those who are receiving ministry, we will be responsible to our leaders, and we will be responsible to one another. There is a beautiful level of accountability in the Global Methodist Church that attempts to navigate and correct some of the shortcomings in the United Methodist Church that does not have those accountability measures, and which is in large part brought us to the dilemma that we are now experiencing. Elevating accountability. But that brings us to number 4, what we'd refer to as the fountain of youth. What do we mean by that? When I present these information sessions, one thing that has struck me are people who say that we haven't been this energized in years. It may have even been the origins of our church when we have been this strategically cooperative with one another and reaching out to other people and drawing on them and uniting with each other in ways that are bonding and creating meaningful relationships. Well, that fountain of youth is much needed. And wouldn't it be anticlimactic if after disaffiliating, after all of that energy and after all of that cooperative fellowship and after all of that work together in our community, we just decide to remain independent? To me, that just seems like it is ending prematurely. No, if we're going to drink from a fountain of youth, then that means that the same energy and that robust drive that ignited us to do the things that we needed to do to disaffiliate, why can't we carry that with us in the work that we will do to ministry and missions with the Global Methodist Church? If there ever was a fountain of youth where you will feel young again and live young again, we need that youthful exuberance. And that youthful exuberance, I don't think, in my humble judgment, will be found by settling with an independent status. It will be found when we move into a momentous kind of outreach where we know that what we're doing will leave a historical legacy. Number 3, what we might want to call contagious captivation. You know, it really is contagious when you get into something that has a magnetic force field that is pulling you, and all of the contributing parts are made better by the sum. When that sum engulfs you and the waves roll over you, each individual contributor within the body is made bigger and better than they would otherwise be. I do believe that by becoming independent, we run the risk of being too separatist, and we miss out on the tides and waves of that exuberance that will flow free. There is a contagious captivation when we get into that energy, and we hear the wonderful testimonies that are going on in the Philippines, and we hear the witness of supernatural mighty hands moving in Africa. To know that you're a part of that, and to know that you're contributing to that, and to know that the imprint and impact that you are making in your congregation, there is a contagious captivation through that. But that brings us to number 2, what we might call reviving the wonder. What has struck me about the Global Methodist Church since it arose in early May is that there has been prayer going on all over the world, fervent prayer. There has been a seeking, there has been a pursuing of God's face, there has been a thirst for God's mighty hand to move. It is a common commitment in this denomination that we will not succeed without God's intervention behind us. Would you like to be a part of a denomination that thrives and relishes the experience of God's mighty hand? To depend upon it and to rely upon it, and to know that if you're going to succeed, you're going to have to depend upon miracle to carry the weight. Isn't that what the disciples did in Acts? They realized that unless God's mighty hand led the way for them, their mission would fall flat. The Global Methodist Church fervently seeks and passionately depends on God's mighty intervention. And to be a part of something like that and to associate with something like that, you can't get close to that without that shadow falling on you and inspiring you to seek the same kind of wonder in your church and in your congregational life. And that brings me to the number 1 point, what we might call drinking from a fuller fountain. Drinking from a fuller fountain or drinking from a fuller flow. What we mean by that is, are you prepared in your church to do all of the instructing, the equipping, the empowering of disciples to fulfill the Great Commission? Do you feel that you have all of the resources in your individual, independent church to fulfill that in a way that would be effective? Well, if you do think that, then you may be inclined to be independent. But I would think that there are resources available through a denomination that is throughout the world forming strategies to succeed and creating opportunities to equip both pastors and lay people, that we might be in this cooperative fellowship and to be bound by it together. There will be opportunities and resources made available that will enable you to be instructed, to be equipped, and to be empowered. If we're going to depend only on our own individual congregations, in my humble judgment, that seems a smaller flow to draw from, a smaller fountain from which to drink. If it is the case, the Global Methodist Church is going to make available a wider network and a wider connection, then we will all be the better for it if we drink from a fuller fountain. I hope that these 10 ways will help your church to navigate the questions of why it is an advantage to become Global Methodist Church rather than to be independent. Our prayers are with you as you make these decisions.